My daughter's life was falling apart. Mike stole thousands. I demanded answers. His response shocked me. Then he hinted at a darker truth. I'm a 42-year-old dad, living in Portland, Oregon, with my wife, Sarah, and our 16-year-old daughter, Emily. We've got a cozy 3-bedroom house, nothing fancy, but it's ours. Life was good, steady. Emily's a straight-A student, always buried in her books or sketching in her room. Sarah's a nurse, works long shifts, and I manage a hardware store downtown. We were happy, just the three of us, until my brother-in-law, Mike, and his 18-year-old twin daughters, Lily and Chloe, showed up. Mike's life fell apart last year, lost his job, got evicted from his apartment in Salem. Sarah, being the soft-hearted sister, insisted we take them in. It's family, she said, her voice firm but her eyes pleading. I didn't love the idea. Our house isn't big, and Emily's room is her sanctuary, but I caved. How bad could it be? They'd stay a few months, get back on their feet, and move out. Right? Wrong. From day one, I sensed trouble. Mike's got this laid-back vibe, like nothing's ever his fault. The twins, they're loud, entitled, and act like the house belongs to them. They'd blast music at midnight, leave dishes piled in the sink, and treat our living room like their personal hangout spot. Emily started retreating to her room more, her smile fading. I'd catch her staring out the window, quiet, like she was carrying a weight she couldn't share. Sarah kept saying, they're just adjusting, give them time. But I saw it differently. Mike wasn't looking for a job. He'd lounge on the couch, scrolling his phone, while the girls strutted around like they owned the place. I tried talking to Sarah about it, but she'd brush me off. Family helps family, she'd say, like it was a mantra. I wanted to support her, but something told me this was going to spiral. I just didn't know how bad it would get. It didn't take long for things to go south. A week after Mike and his twins, Lily and Chloe, moved into our Portland home, I noticed Emily getting quieter. She'd come home from school, head straight to her room, and shut the door. One evening, I knocked, found her sitting on her bed, arms crossed, staring at her closet. What's wrong, kiddo? I asked. She hesitated, then pointed to her wardrobe. Half her clothes were gone. Her favorite hoodie, the one she saved up for, vanished. I pressed her for details. She said Lily and Chloe had been in her room, borrowing stuff without asking. I marched downstairs, found the twins sprawled on the couch, scrolling their phones. Did you take Emily's clothes? I asked, keeping my voice calm. Lily smirked, didn't even look up. Yeah, we borrowed a couple things. Chill, it's just clothes. Chloe giggled, like it was a game. I told them to return everything. They rolled their eyes, sauntered upstairs, and tossed a few items back, but not all. Emily whispered to me later that her favorite scarf was still missing. My blood boiled, but I kept it together. I went to Mike, figuring he'd parent his kids. He was in the kitchen, eating my leftovers. Mike, your girls are taking Emily's stuff, I said, laying out what happened. He shrugged, didn't even pause his chewing. They're teenage girls, man. They share clothes. It's normal. Normal? My daughter's privacy was being trampled, and he called it normal? I pushed back, told him Emily felt violated. He laughed, said she needed to toughen up. I walked away before I said something I'd regret. Sarah wasn't much help either. When I told her about the clothes, she sighed, like I was overreacting. It's just teenage girl stuff, she said, echoing Mike. They'll sort it out. I stared at her, stunned. This wasn't sorting it out. This was my daughter losing her sense of safety in her own home. Over the next few days, it got worse. Emily's earrings, the ones her grandma gave her, disappeared. Then her skincare stuff, the expensive kind she bought with her babysitting money, started running out faster than it should. I caught Chloe walking out of Emily's room with a bottle of her face cream, acting like it was hers. When I confronted her, she scoffed, said Emily wouldn't mind. Emily did mind. I found her crying in her room one night, clutching her empty jewelry box. Why can't they leave my stuff alone, Dad? She asked, her voice breaking. My heart sank. I promised her I'd fix this, but every time I brought it up, Mike brushed it off, and Sarah told me to let it go. I felt like I was screaming into a void. My daughter's space, her things, her peace, they were being stolen, bit by bit, and no one else seemed to care. I couldn't stand by anymore. Emily's tears were the last straw. The next day, I drove to the hardware store I manage in Portland and grabbed a heavy-duty padlock, the kind you'd use for a storage unit, costing me $50. I installed it on Emily's bedroom door that afternoon. Her face lit up, a flicker of relief in her eyes. Thanks, Dad, she whispered, hugging me. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was doing something right, but the peace didn't last. That evening, Mike saw the lock and lost it. He stormed into the living room, face red, pointing at me. What's this, huh? Treating my girls like criminals? He yelled. I stood my ground, told him his daughters were stealing from Emily, and the lock was staying. He scoffed, called Emily a spoiled princess who could just buy cheap makeup from Target instead of hoarding fancy stuff. My fists clenched. I wanted to knock that smug look off his face, but I held back, barely. Sarah walked in, caught the tail end of his rant. I thought she'd back me up, but she hesitated, her eyes darting between us. Maybe the lock's a bit much, she said, her voice soft, like she was trying to keep the peace. Teenage girls borrow stuff, honey. It's not a big deal. I stared at her, my jaw tight. Not a big deal? Our daughter was crying herself to sleep because her space was being invaded, and Sarah was siding with Mike? I told her, over my dead body will that lock come off. My voice shook, but I meant every word. Mike smirked, like he'd won some victory. He muttered something about me being dramatic and walked off. Sarah stayed quiet. Her shoulders slumped, avoiding my eyes. I felt alone, like I was the only one fighting for Emily. That night, I lay awake, replaying the argument. Was I overreacting? No. My daughter deserved to feel safe in her own home, but the tension in the house was suffocating. Sarah's loyalty to her brother was tearing us apart, and Mike's arrogance only made it worse. I knew this was far from over. Something had to give, and I wasn't sure how much more I could take. The lock was supposed to fix everything. It didn't. A few weeks later, Emily came home from school, her face pale, her hands trembling. I knew something was wrong the second I saw her. "Dad," she said, her voice barely a whisper. They got in again. My stomach dropped. I followed her upstairs to her room. The padlock was still there, untouched, but she pointed to her desk. Her laptop, the one she'd saved up $1,200 for from her summer job, was gone. I told her to stay calm, that we'd find it. But deep down, I was seething. I'd told Emily to keep a spare key hidden in her drawer, just in case she lost the main one. Big mistake. Somehow, Lily and Chloe had found it. I confronted them in the living room, where they were lounging, phones in hand, acting innocent. "Where's Emily's laptop?" I demanded. Chloe shrugged, said they borrowed it to watch some videos. Borrowed? I told them to hand it over now. They rolled their eyes, sauntered upstairs, and came back with it. My heart sank when I saw it. The screen was cracked, spider webs of glass spreading from the corner. The keyboard was sticky, some keys popped off. It wouldn't even turn on. Emily saw it and broke down. She sank to the floor, clutching the broken laptop, sobbing. "My essays, Dad, my projects, my photos." Her voice cracked, each word like a knife in my chest. That laptop held months of college applications, art projects she'd poured her heart into, memories she could never replace. I knelt beside her, helpless, my anger boiling over. This wasn't just borrowing. This was destruction, careless and cruel. I stormed into the kitchen, where Mike was sipping a beer, oblivious as always. "Your girls destroyed Emily's laptop," I said, my voice shaking with rage. I laid out the damage, expecting an apology, some shred of accountability. Instead, he leaned back, shrugged. "Accidents happen, man. She should have backed it up." My vision blurred with fury. Backed it up? That laptop was her lifeline, and he was acting like it was no big deal. I told him it cost $1,200, that Emily saved for it herself. He snorted, said she could get a cheap one from Best Buy. I wanted to scream, to shake him until he understood the pain his daughters caused. I demanded he replace it. He rolled his eyes, said he'd talk to the girls, but insisted they didn't mean any harm. No harm? Emily was sobbing upstairs, her dreams shattered, and he couldn't care less. Sarah walked in, saw my face, and asked what happened. I told her everything. For once, she didn't defend Mike. She looked at him, her jaw tight, but didn't say a word. I could see the conflict in her eyes, torn between her brother and our daughter. I didn't care anymore. I told Mike this wasn't over. He needed to fix this, or I would. He muttered something about me being dramatic and walked off. I stood there, fists clenched, knowing this was only the beginning of the storm. I needed a break. We all did. The house felt like a pressure cooker, and Emily's spirit was crumbling. So I booked a weekend getaway for Sarah, Emily, and me at a resort near Seattle, just a few hours from Portland. It had a spa, hiking trails, and an amusement park nearby. For 2 days, we laughed, ate greasy boardwalk fries, and forgot the chaos at home. Emily's smile returned, faint but real, as she rode roller coasters with Sarah. I thought, maybe, just maybe, we could reset. Then we came home. The second I opened the front door, a wave of stale beer, cigarette smoke, and something sickly sweet hit me like a punch. My stomach churned. The living room was a war zone. Couch cushions were tossed on the floor, sticky soda stains soaked the carpet, and muddy shoe prints trailed to the kitchen. Empty cans, crumpled wrappers, and half-eaten pizza slices littered every surface. Sarah gasped beside me, her hand gripping my arm. "What the hell happened?" she whispered, her voice sharp with disbelief. I bolted upstairs, heart pounding, dreading what I'd find. Emily's door was ajar. The padlock I'd installed, the one that cost me $50, was smashed. Bits of metal scattered on the floor. Inside, her room was trashed. Drawers yanked open, clothes strewn everywhere, her bed a tangled mess. Her new laptop, the one we'd just replaced for $1,200, was gone. Again. I froze, rage and helplessness crashing over me. Sarah reached the doorway, saw the chaos, and let out a choked sob. "Oh my God," she said, her hand covering her mouth, eyes wide with horror. Downstairs, the front door clicked open. Mike strolled in, phone in hand, a lazy grin on his face. I stormed down, barely containing myself. "What did your girls do to my house?" I demanded. He glanced around, shrugged like it was nothing. "The kids had some friends over. Got a bit wild. No big deal." "No big deal?" "My daughter's room was destroyed, our home violated," and he stood there, smirking. Sarah stepped forward, her voice low but furious. "This isn't a high school party, Mike. They broke her lock. They trashed her room." He waved her off, still glued to his phone. "Relax. We'll clean it up. Reminds me of that party we threw back in high school, remember? Mom never knew." Sarah's face hardened. "We cleaned up before Mom got home," she snapped. "This is different." I could see it in her eyes. She was done making excuses for him. I told Mike his girls crossed a line, that this was Emily's safe space, and they'd ruined it. He rolled his eyes, promised they'd fix it, but his tone said he didn't care. My fists clenched. I was one step away from losing it, and I knew this was only going to get worse. The trashed house was bad enough, but but what I found next broke me. Late one night, I sat at the kitchen table in our Portland home, poring over bank statements. Something had been nagging at me for weeks. Our savings account, the one Sarah and I had built for Emily's college fund, was lower than it should be. Way lower. I started digging, my fingers trembling as I scrolled through transactions. Small withdrawals popped up. $50 here, $100 there, sometimes $200. They were sporadic but consistent, dating back months. My heart sank as I added them up. Over $12,000 was gone. I double-checked, hoping I'd made a mistake. I hadn't. These withdrawals didn't match our spending. Sarah was as careful with money as I was, always tracking every penny. That left one person with access to the account, Mike. My brother-in-law, the guy lounging in my living room, had been siphoning our savings. I felt sick, my pulse pounding in my ears. This wasn't just about Emily's room anymore. This was betrayal, pure and simple. I waited for Sarah to get home from her shift. When she walked in, I slid the bank records across the table. "Look at this," I said, my voice low, barely containing my rage. She flipped through the pages, her eyes narrowing. I pointed out the dates, the amounts, the pattern. "It's Mike," I said. Her face went pale, her hands shaking as she stared at the numbers. She didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was undeniable. Over $12,000 stolen from our daughter's future. When Mike came home that night, I didn't hold back. I slapped the bank records on the coffee table, right in front of him. "Explain this," I demanded. Sarah stood beside me, her arms crossed, her silence louder than any words. Mike's lazy grin faded. He stammered, tried to laugh it off, but I wasn't having it. "You've been stealing from us," I said, my voice rising. "From your own family." He finally caved, admitted it, said he'd been borrowing for online sports betting, some football picks he swore were a sure thing. "I'm close to a big win," he said, his voice desperate. "Just need a bit more time, maybe a couple hundred more," Sarah snapped. "You stole $12,000 for gambling?" she yelled, her voice breaking. "You think this is a game?" Mike tried to explain, said he planned to pay it back, that he was almost there. He begged for more time, claimed he'd seen his buddies hit it big, that this was his way out, his chance to get a new place. I couldn't believe his nerve. He wasn't sorry, he was just sorry he got caught. Sarah's eyes burned with fury. "You betrayed us," she said, her voice cold. "You stole from Emily's future." Mike opened his mouth, but no words came. He saw her face, saw mine, and for once, he shut up. I stood there, my chest tight, watching Sarah's trust in her brother crumble. She dropped the papers on the table, turned, and walked away. I knew then that things would never be the same. Mike's promises meant nothing. He'd crossed a line, and there was no going back. The house felt heavier than ever, and I braced myself for what had to come next. The betrayal cut deep, but what came next broke my heart. A week after uncovering Mike's theft, I got a call at work. It was Emily's school principal in Portland. My daughter had collapsed in the hallway between classes. My stomach dropped. I raced to the hospital, Sarah meeting me there. Emily lay in a bed, hooked to monitors, her face pale, her eyes hollow. The doctor didn't mince words. "She's exhausted," he said, "physically and emotionally. It's stress, not just school. Something at home is eating at her." I glanced at Sarah, her face crumpled, guilt written all over it. We both knew why. The constant invasions, the stolen clothes, the broken laptop, the trashed room, Lily and Chloe's chaos, Mike's excuses. It had crushed her. Emily, my strong, bright girl, was breaking under the weight of it all. I sat by her bed, holding her hand, my throat tight. Sarah stood frozen, staring at our daughter. I didn't need to say it. She knew this was on us for letting it go so far. All those times I'd warned her, said the twins were too much, she'd brushed it off. Now, here we were, in a hospital room, because our home wasn't safe for our kid. That night, back at the house, I couldn't avoid it anymore. Mike was in the living room, sprawled on the couch, scrolling his phone like nothing was wrong. His casual attitude, once just annoying, now made my blood boil. I walked up, stood over him, and said, "You and the girls need to leave, now." My voice was steady, but inside, I was shaking with rage. He looked up, shocked, tried to play it off. "Come on, man, we got nowhere to go. We're family." Family? He'd stolen $12,000, let his daughters destroy Emily's life, and now he wanted to pull the family card? I laid it out. The theft, the trashed house, Emily in the hospital. He started with excuses, said the girls were just kids, that he'd pay us back eventually. I cut him off. "No more chances. You're done here." Sarah walked in, her face hard. For the first time, she didn't waver. "He's right, Mike," she said, her voice low but firm. "You've hurt us. You've hurt Emily. You're leaving." Mike's jaw dropped. I don't think he ever expected Sarah to take my side. He tried to argue, said we were overreacting, but Sarah shook her head. "Pack your things," she said, "tonight." The room went quiet, the air heavy. Mike stared at us, his usual smirk gone. He saw we meant it. No more excuses, no more delays. They packed their bags, the twins grumbling, Mike silent for once. By morning, they were gone. The house felt empty, but not in a bad way. It was like we could breathe again. Sarah sat at the kitchen table, her eyes red. "I should have listened," she whispered. "I let him hurt her. I didn't blame her. I just wanted our family back." Emily came home from the hospital the next day, weaker but relieved. When we told her they were gone, her shoulders relaxed, a faint smile breaking through. It was the right call, no matter how hard it was. With Mike and the twins gone, our Portland home felt different. different, quiet, lighter, like the air wasn't thick with tension anymore. Emily came home from the hospital a few days later, still pale but with a spark in her eyes I hadn't seen in months. She hugged me tight, whispered, "Thanks, Dad." That moment, seeing her smile, made every fight worth it. Sarah and I sat down that night, just the two of us, at the kitchen table. She looked exhausted, her eyes red from crying. "I was wrong," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I should have listened to you. I let them hurt her. I didn't want to pile on." I could see the guilt eating at her. She'd always put family first, but this time, it blinded her. "We fixed it," I said, squeezing her hand. "That's what matters." We spent the next few weeks rebuilding. Emily started sketching again, her room a sanctuary once more. The lock stayed, though she didn't need it now. Sarah and I talked more, really talked, about boundaries, about protecting our daughter. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Still, I can't shake it. Kicking Mike out, leaving him and the twins with nowhere to go, it felt right. But was it too harsh? They were family, after all. Sarah says we did what we had to, that Emily's health came first. But part of me wonders if I could have handled it differently, maybe set firmer rules earlier. Mike's betrayal, the $12,000 he stole, the way his girls broke Emily down, it's hard to forgive. Yet, I see Sarah's pain, losing her brother like that. So, I'm left wondering, did I go too far? Am I the asshole for kicking them out, knowing they had nowhere else to go?